Hello, welcome to the Hallowed Hearth. Things are running a little differently tonight because we don't have Katie joining us, and I am trying to figure this out as a first-time host. Thank you for joining us. I am Haley Hansen. I am a actress, singer, producer, director, and mother of monsters. I make my own Beastie Baby dolls. Joining me tonight, we have our co-host Rachel Ravensvale. She is our paranormal researcher extraordinaire and brilliant human being. Welcome, Rachel.
Hello. Hello, Beastie Baby Mommy.
We have a fun show ahead of us tonight. We have a wonderful guest, Lacey Williams, joining us, a cryptozoologist, and we will give a little further introduction on her as well. But to start off our intro, let's do our poll for the night.
Ooh,
There she
I'm
goes.
excited. I've got my Beetlejuice deck, and
Love it.
I was telling Haley how much I like the artwork. So I guess you can just tell me when I should stop with these cards. It's hard to shuffle them, but yeah, just tell me.
Now.
Okay. Ooh. Oh, okay. So it is the Chariot.
Ooh, interesting.
Yes. I haven't seen the Chariot before. That's very different. Let me read to you. Don't mind me.
Road trip, which is appropriate for the Chariot, I guess.
Yes, it says, okay, through the curves and swerves and eternal, God, the what was that called? I can't say this. Something dogs. You must learn to steer the chariot upright, it means, which it was. Barbara and Adam may have lost control of their car, but that doesn't mean you're heading for a crash. The chariot speaks to willpower, strength, and determination, allowing you to drive towards success. Just keep your eyes on the road and dodge any obstacles.
Hell yeah. Sounds great. We'll take that
Yeah.
for momentum.
It's like, even though, yeah, the dog made them swerve and go off the covered bridge,
Oh, God.
like they ended up in a new journey in a whole, whole new place across the veil with some weird creatures.
Appropriate for us, yeah.
Exactly. Appropriate for tonight. So yeah, I'm really excited to have Lacey with us. So I can give a little quick introduction. So tonight we'll step into the shadowed forest of Appalachia with Lacey Williams, a writer, cryptid researcher, and founding member of Cryptid Women's Society. From the quiet hills of southern Ohio, her work explores the space where the folklore breathes, where creatures linger just beyond the veil, and where stories refuse to stay buried.
Ah, dun, 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 dun. Welcome, Lacey. Hello.
Oh,
Thank you.
Hello.
I thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, thank you for coming on.
I love that you called yourself Mother of Monsters because I've always called myself that too. Like um, like children, human children, but I've always said Mother of Monsters. And I got a tattoo a couple years ago, and I told everyone I got my kids' faces. It's upside down to you, but it's Lock, Shock, and Barrel.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
That's so cool.
And so I have one of those like epoxy tumblers with like Sally on it, and she's holding hands with like little miniature versions of Jack and Sally, and it says Mother of Monsters.
Oh, my gosh. Another Kismet moment. Please tell our audience what your shirt says tonight as well.
Oh, it's the New Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
Yeah,
we were on the same wavelength for sure.
I had no idea that's where you were. I am a vintage thrifting addict, and I get so much immense joy when I find vintage cryptid things in the thrift. And yeah, so I found this one and I was so pumped about it.
Amazing.
I love that they have like embraced it as their mascot.
Well, it's so funny. We will definitely go into. You have so much to share with us. I'm so excited to learn everything about you. But just a real quick story. Last week I was in a movie and I made this doll and he was a prop in the movie. And it was so funny because this doll is my little Leeds New Jersey Devil. And so many people hadn't heard of him before. They're like, wait, like the sports team? And then you wear the sweatshirt. I'm like, yeah, totally like the sports team. That
As
right
a
over.
10-year-old would say, uncultured swines. That's what he said.
Thank you. I was like, okay, well, I will work with what we're given here. But
That's hilarious. Where do they think the name comes from?
I know.
Right?
Like Red Devils. Like we have a local school here that they're like a high school. Their mascot is the Red Devil. So I guess that's a common sports mascot. They probably just didn't really think much about it.
Yeah.
Just
oblivious in the world, right?
That's like living here though, and like not knowing Mothman, or like that's your
right.
your home cryptid. Like that's strange that so many people wouldn't be familiar.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Yeah. How do you not know Mothman?
Right. Oh, thanks to Hollywood, everyone knows Mothman.
Bless.
Everybody loves the Mothman.
We do.
I have many Mothman behind me. Like I have in my office, and so like here's a little bitty Mothman.
Oh, I got him. I've got one of him by my bed.
I have a whole tree. You can't see it. I have a whole little tree back here with tiny cryptids hanging on it.
Oh my gosh, you're amazing.
I collect a lot of things, so like they just find love.
Yeah, that was the most recent Mothman I got.
That was a big one. I do have a giant Mothman stuffed animal, or a giant Mothman squishmallow.
Oh,
he's cute.
He's glorious.
He's probably the biggest one that I've got.
That's awesome.
My favorite of my cryptid finds, though, is, so you can see, this right here. There's my tree. This, you can't know if you can see because of the glare, but it's a set of 1970s Bigfoot shoes. Like they're, like you would put your feet in them and like walk around and it would leave like Bigfoot tracks, and they're from the 70s and it's still in the box. It's one of my favorites.
I need that. Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
It's one of my favorites.
That is so cool. Love that.
So you said you're in New Jersey. Where are you, Rachel?
I'm in Nashville.
Oh, you're not super far from me. That's like 5 hours.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not too bad.
Pop right over there.
Probably. I know New York City is like 9-ish hours. So I guess depending on where in New Jersey you are, it's not either one super far.
No, not at all. That's what's nice about living in kind of this area. I'm originally from California, so I moved out here like in 2019, and like California is such a big state that, you know, basically was sheltered. It didn't go very far. Like the furthest I went over to like Nevada.
Yeah.
You know, because it was from the Bay Area, so it wasn't that was like three-ish hours. But here, like in Nashville, I've been to so many states because it's like geographically there's so much you can get to in just a few hours. It's
like that here too. Like where I live, there's really like, I live where Kentucky, Ohio, and West Virginia touch. And so like I live in Ohio, but 5 minutes across the river is Kentucky, which is where I'm actually from. And West Virginia, 15 minutes down the river is where I play roller derby. And so they're all, it's all really the same area. And then there's not really a lot here as far as like big stuff, but like 2 hours north is Cincinnati, 2 hours in another direction is Columbus, and like Point Pleasant is 45 minutes. And so like there's we're driving distance from a lot of things.
Awesome.
Yeah. You're kind of in like Cryptid Central then, huh?
Right?
Every time I do like one of these like shows with people that aren't from here, they say that. They're like, you're in like the heart of cryptid. I'm like, yeah, pretty much.
Well, I grew up in Bluefield, West Virginia. I don't know if you're.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's
That's
such
super
a
smart.
small world. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about any of this stuff when I lived there. I'm going back to
Really?
West Virginia this October for the Bigfoot Festival,
Mhm.
and I'm like, I gotta go squatching. I gotta make up for lost time because I was just a kid and I didn't know any of this stuff was there. And there's so much happening in
I'm
Appalachia.
telling you, I'm really glad they moved that festival to October.
Me too.
I went to that festival last year.
Oh my gosh, I was almost there. I was so close to going that year.
I about crashed out. Like I am not, heat doesn't normally bother me, but it was in July, I think, and it was so hot. It's at this big, huge park, and everything is super far apart. So you have to walk really far to get to anything. And I was like, we like to refer to that level of like tantrum throwing, Epcot level meltdown, because when we took our kids to Disney, like our youngest, because there's not a lot of shade in Epcot, and so like we were walking around the world and he was getting hangry and hot and like melting down, and so that was me. I was like, I need a snow cone in my hand and some shade because I was not gonna make it. But I'm really glad that they moved that one to October.
Right? No, that was the biggest selling feature. We're like, I can vend this year if there's going to be cooler weather. Because I was reading the comments and people were like dying. I'm like, this is horrible.
We were there, like while we were sitting and like listening. There were like a Squatch calling contest, and we were listening to it. We were near the medic tent, and it was, you could just watch the little go-karts like flying in and out. There were so many people going down all over the place of just heat stroke, heat exhaustion. It was so hot, but there was thousands, tens of thousands of people there. It was nuts.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
Some of them get really crowded.
Did you get to see Dr. Melcher that year?
Yes. I lost count of how many festivals I was at last year. And I saw him speak at a few different ones, but I actually got to speak with him at Red River Gorge Bigfoot Festival last spring, which that one's coming up this month. In May. It's like the last weekend in May. And I actually got to speak with him there. And I'm such an admirer of him because he has like one foot in, or had one foot in both academia and like fringe science, because like actually graduation's tomorrow. I graduate with my master's degree tomorrow in historical anthropology, and then I'm probably got maybe a week or two before I graduate with my master's in cryptozoology. And so I really admired him because he was kind of on a similar academic track. And so I felt like a lot of people would, when they think of cryptozoology, they think of monster hunting or like silly TV shows, and they think of fantastical monsters. And I felt like really gave it some like academic credibility and a voice in academia. So he was so well respected. It's still probably going to be a loss for, I think, the field for a very long time, because he was such a big part of that.
Absolutely. I wonder whoever got his like collection, because I know that he amassed like the biggest collection of like footprint.
His son is also into it. I don't know. I don't know that he was as into it as his father, but I know that I listened to them on a podcast together, and like his son was also talking about it. So I would imagine his son will probably keep most of it, if not all of it. Maybe he'll donate some of it somewhere to like a museum. I don't know, but I'm sure that he will keep most of it in the family. But yeah, I've heard he has like just a massive collection.
That's so cool. Sorry guys, I am, as we're going, figuring out how this platform works, because usually Katie does our hosting, but we have an awesome chat going right now. Let's see, here's our next comment. There you go. They're so incredibly proud of you, Lacey. Proud of you too. You're so cool.
Thanks. That's our founders right there. One of them, if I had to guess, it's probably Lisa. She's in New Zealand.
Wow, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about the society?
Yeah, it's so our original founders are Lisa, she's in New Zealand, and Juliet's in Australia. And so we're constantly like scrambling, trying to figure out what time it is in everyone's country and part of the world, so we could all get onto a call at the same time. And they've spent for the last couple of years now amassed this collection of weirdos, and yeah, it's Lisa. And we're called the Crypto Women's Society, but it's not just cryptids. Like, we have people who are really into ufology or Egyptology or conservation or just zoology, that are just interested in like endangered species or living fossils. And so it's really just any kind of metaphysical scientific space, but it's a place where sometimes it's just chit chat, like, what do you think about this thing? Hey, look at this video I just found, or here's this evidence I collected, or here's this article that I found that's really interesting. And sometimes we can work together. Like, now that school's over, I'm starting a project with a girl who lives in LA area, and we're going to we're going to do some work and put together a research article and try to get it into some journals. And so we have this network all over the world that we can kind of like find the pocket that you're interested in and find all the other people that are also interested in that. Hey, let's do something together. And like next month, I know there's going to be like several of us at the Red River Gorge Bigfoot Festival. So we get to just hang out and talk about weird things that we all like. And then it's also a space to kind of amplify female voices, because the field is so dominated by men. And that's true, I think, in a lot of scientific fields, but in this field, that's definitely still true. Even like when you see on TV, like most of the TV shows about this kind of stuff you see, it's mostly men. And so they're
the same in paranormal.
Right.
Yeah, it's been like, but I think we're starting to see the tide shift a bit.
Definitely.
Which is really nice to see that women, we wish it would just get into like the public space a little bit more, so that they can see role models of women, doing what men have for so long done.
And I think that I think we're starting to see a shift that direction. I think that all of the fringe science are starting to become more, because now, so what if things that we've always kind of assumed were X-Files and fantastical stories for generations that people didn't talk about, and if you did, you were crazy. Now the government's even like, well, maybe you're not crazy. Like, maybe these things actually have existed and we've just been keeping it secret. So now it's like, okay, well, now if this thing exists, if this thing is real, all these other things could still be real. And so I think, like you said, there's a hope that we're going to see more of it in the mainstream, but also we're going to see more credible forms of it in the mainstream, less alpha males going out screaming into the void and I saw a monster, it ghost just touched me, and more like credible evidence backed. And so I think that will help a lot of people solidify the space that it is real and it's science, and there are things happening that we can't explain.
Yeah, I think Lisa's dead on right there, that she says that women investigate and research differently than men, and I think that's very true. I think we lead with like not only our minds with research, but we also lead a lot with intuition. And
and also we've spent all of modern existence women being told they're hysterical, and so I think over generations of time we've become more research based and analytical, because we want receipts. We want to come before we tell the world about it. We want to say, here's how I know, here's what I saw, here's how I can prove it. I'm not hysterical, I'm not crazy, these things happened. So I think we've just collectively developed this research-based mindset of, I want to prove it. I want to be able to show that I mean what I said.
Yeah, absolutely. Our last guest that we brought on, we were discussing possibility of disclosure as far as ETs goes. And I really think that it goes so far beyond that too. There's so much that is lacking as far as taking credible evidence seriously. And we have had so many researchers on the show already, and they just get dismissed so quickly as being hysterical, and for women especially. It's important that we get to have our voices heard, and that we be taken seriously when we're doing the hard work. We're putting in the effort, we're documenting things, doing it the correct way. But still, it's there's a stigma attached to everything, especially even just from women in STEM, not even as far as cryptozoology goes, as far as anything as that. But female scientists are already at a disadvantage. So I really appreciate that we have people like you that are putting yourself out there, because it's a risk inherently, but we have to, otherwise no one's going to say it.
We're trying to do it while breaking stereotypes too. Like you can, I mean, like it's not uncommon for women, especially if they're in the public eye, like if they're on TV or whatever, to get backlash for wearing makeup and wearing, a matching outfit. Like you can't be smart and be pretty.
Yeah.
You can't like makeup or not want to look like a bridge troll on national TV and know what you're talking about at the same time.
We do not want to be the focus of someone else's investigations, people.
Right?
Come on.
I don't want people to mistake me for a cryptid while I'm out in the field.
I'm not on bog witch mode.
Right?
Take me serious.
That's for personal time.
Exactly.
Or like I was saying before, without makeup, I look like the undead because I'm so pale. Like I don't want to go out looking like people are like, okay, she's a real life vampire. Like, yeah, sure.
It's not Rachel's fault that she is our resident Victorian ghost.
I know.
Honestly, in the right lighting.
I feel that, and I also have a ginger kid who is I'm also, but my hair is like a darker red, so I have the ability to get a little bit of color. I never tan, but for me. But my oldest, he is also a Victorian child with tuberculosis forever. Like he, dead of summer, could have consumption for anyone knows.
We're lucky we've survived the winter. If we make it through the summer, Lord help us.
I know. Not looking like a lobster.
Yep. That's usually how I finish the summer, even though I have like at all times sunscreen within arm's reach. Like
yes, I do.
I have a Jeep, so like if I'm even gonna have the top off my Jeep, I put sunscreen on just to run to town. So I get it.
The struggle is real, and there you go. Even more reason for cryptids to stay hidden. They can't get that sunburn.
They can't.
Totally relatable content.
Yeah, I have a question too about, like, since we're approaching the cryptid subject again, do you think that cryptids are part of our ecosystem, or they're something that's outside of it?
I don't know that I would say it's a blanket statement, because until we can prove something does exist, we can't prove that it doesn't. And so I don't know that we can really say for certain that everything, but I think that a lot of them are either are biological, that either do exist or have existed in the past. Like maybe some of them did exist, and that's why we have stories of them for generations, but we don't see them anymore because we've destroyed all of our natural spaces left that they would they would be inhabited, and maybe they've died out, or maybe they exist in very small factions in unexplored parts of the world, in rainforests and dense forests and things like that. But I think a lot of them could be biological. I also think a lot of them could be folklore or misidentification. Like they saw, especially in like old times when it was, really common for people to immigrate, and especially into America, when everybody from the old countries were coming into the new country, and they were seeing things that they had never seen before, animals that they had never been exposed to before, back before zoos were common and before the internet, and they didn't have ways to see these animals. So they were just trying to make sense of what they were seeing, and maybe were scared of this new animal, and then created a story to explain it. And like it's a game of telephone that has mutated over time, or maybe it was, a lot of them are just stories that were made up to keep kids in line, to scare them into behaving, or to scare them to. I talk about this often with everybody. One thing that I talk about, I get asked about a lot, is the Wampus cat. and that's an old Appalachian story. And I tend to lean into either it was something that did exist at some time, or it was a cougar, a North American cougar, which are supposed to be extinct in our area now, but there are still tons of people that swear they see them, especially in more rural areas. And I think that it could have been a misidentification if it was real, that they were seeing the cougar and they didn't know what it was. Or I think it's possible that, they were making it up so that their kids weren't going in the woods at night, or, were putting the livestock, like doing their chores, putting the livestock up so that the bobcats didn't pick them off, or the cougars. And so I think it's possible, but I also think it's possible that there could be things that exist outside of biology that are either interdimensional or extraterrestrial. And also, who knows because we don't know what the extraterrestrial things are or interdimensional things could be. They could be things that are in plain sight, hidden in plain. I always use the example of platypus, like, because a platypus on paper should not exist. Like, that is the craziest animal, and it's a mammal that lays eggs, and so it should not exist. And so
It does.
Who's to say that that's not what aliens are, and like they just have always existed, so we're just like, oh, that's a platypus, it's a weird animal. But maybe that's what, maybe they're not little green men, or maybe they can shapeshift. I don't know. But I think it's possible that it could be all of the above. I think some of them can be biological. I think some of them could be folklore or misidentification, and I think some of them maybe could be something that wasn't supposed to belong here.
Yeah.
My own Wampus cat just entered my studio. So if there's any drastic interruptions, I apologize in advance because she is a terror. But yeah, I mean, the platypus is a great example. When you look at octopus, they don't make any sense at all. They don't follow any evolutionary track.
The squid was not known for a long time either.
Jellyfish,
the kraken,
have existed for so long, and long before us. Also, dolphins are way too smart, and it's illegal
to talk to them.
Talk to dolphins.
Like, what? No. Yeah. It makes me want to talk to them even more.
Yeah. And like, what do they know? And why are we not allowed to talk to them? And can they tell us what they know? Like, what? Like, there's so many,
right?
So many questions. Yeah. So I think that like I said, you can't prove something exists. You can't prove something doesn't exist until you can prove that it does or that it did. And so I think that there's room for all of the different types of studying, whether it's cryptozoology or ufology or whatever, because it takes all kinds of kinds. It takes, we are all working towards the same goal, just trying to figure out what we don't know. And, it takes all the wheels to move the car. So it's all kind of different parts of the same moving piece.
Right. And every piece sort of like coming together. So, I mean, you can't have the wheel if you don't have the spokes, right? Or the rubber tread, or, even the propelling something to propel it forward. So,
yeah.
But how do we then balance like witness stories with like physical proof?
Well, of course, physical proof is always the ideal, but so many, I would say probably more than anything, our evidence that we have are witness stories, which are wildly unreliable in that, not just with cryptozoology, but, even in crime, like our memories are fallible and aren't always consistent. And so when your great mama saw something and then told, somebody about it, who told them about it, who told you about it, like those stories get less reliable each year. Oh yeah, she said same goes for supporting our indigenous researchers and investigators. That's true too, because they're in a whole network of their own. And that's something that I talk about when I do like community events and stuff. I always say, like, talk to the native people, like the people that live there, whether it's, here or the Midwest or indigenous cultures, like those they know the land, they know the area better than anybody. And witness statements can be still true. That doesn't mean that they're not true just because, but you have to really like weed out what is a credible source versus a non-credible source, and that can sometimes be harder than others. But your evidence is only as reliable as the person who found it or who provides it. So
then do you look at patterns?
Yeah, sometimes. Like I'm working on planning. So on my cryptozoology course, I'm writing my master's thesis on the belief and the lore behind the Appalachian Sasquatch. And so I have to do a field research study to reinforce that. So we're doing like a Bigfoot hunt. Yeah.
And there he is. You found him.
Found him.
So we live where my house is. We live on about 200 acres that butts up against a state park, butts up against Wayne National Forest, and so it's like hundreds of acres, in any direction. And there's been tons of reports in the park that have been documented over the years, and so I pulled all the sightings that I could find, whether it was an audible tree knocking or audible sound, or somebody who thinks they had an actual interaction, they saw something, or they found a track, or whether they found what they thought was a nest or whatever, any kind of documented report. And like I've been filtering, like trying to find a pattern in what time of day was it that they had the encounter, what was the cycle of the moon, what was the weather, what was the humidity level, what was what was there any rainfall that day, like what was the pattern, trying to see if there's any consistency in the reports. Are there time of days, are there areas, how close are they to a body of water, how close are they to a rock formation, like are there any consistencies across the board in all the reports, to try and see if you can recreate or choose the time to go do the research that falls in that similar pattern. So all of those things are walking distance. All those reports were within walking distance of my house, basically. So that's my next undertaking, is trying to go out there and see if we can't get some kind of evidence or something to back up some kind of source, some kind of encounter that's been reported already.
Yeah,
it's so cool.
On the other end of the spectrum, do you think that belief shapes these encounters?
Yeah. Like in the confirmation bias sense, definitely there are going to be people who want to believe and want to see something because they do believe. So that's always going to be, you're always going to have people that are just diehard. These things exist. You can't tell me otherwise. No amount of evidence is going to prove me otherwise. So everything is something. And that's kind of where like a lot of the TV shows that you see, same thing with like paranormal shows, like a lot of the ones that you see on TV, it's everything is something. Every EMF light that blinks is something, never mind that it's next to a power outlet, or, like there's always, so people who, I think confirmation bias definitely affects. And that's also, we know like there's been a major spike in reportings since the internet became a thing. And then again, when social media became a thing, because people share their stories and they're so intrigued by it and want to have their own encounter. So some people, or maybe people are scared, and so they believe it because, or they think they have an encounter because they're scared to have an encounter. So I definitely, and that muddies the water, and that's the work, is you have to kind of weed out what's credible, what's real, and what was maybe not what they thought it was.
For sure.
Yeah, and that's the challenge, right?
Yeah, without being
able to you not only have like, you not only have the fact that like these creatures may be elusive, right? And trying to find them is one thing, but then you have everything else kind of in the mix too. And that just makes it like more and more
people. Then there's people that are the opposite. They're never going to believe that anything is out there, no matter what kind of evidence you show them, no matter what kind of evidence they give them. Like people will say, well, why aren't we finding Bigfoot bodies? Why aren't we finding Bigfoot skeletons? But
they bury them.
I mean, how many bear skeletons are we seeing? Like we know there's hundreds of thousands of bears in the world, and there's only like 4 species of bear, and it's not a common thing. Even if you live somewhere where there's a lot of bears, you're not just coming across bear skeletons. Like, it's not, bones break down, they're biodegradable just like anything else. If they live in small numbers in rural, desolate places, like you're not likely going to see one. Also, I assume most people would consider Bigfoot a predator or any kind of Sasquatch. And when I say Bigfoot, I'm using the colloquial term Bigfoot, but like any type of, no matter whether you call it a Yowie or a Bigfoot or a Sasquatch or a Grassman or a wood booger or whatever, like most people I think would consider it a predator, but most predators in the wild don't make it. Like, only, I have this number written down, but I'm making this number up off the top of my head because I can't remember exactly the number. But I want to say it's like 67% or something of predators make it to adulthood. So like most of them don't live past their juvenile years, which is also another thing. People are like, well, why don't we ever see juvenile Bigfoots? Well, some people say they do.
Right.
And
but they're smaller than the rest. They're
like
the typical.
How many baby bears are you seeing? Like, yeah, people see them, but they're not, you don't see them as often as you see big bears because the big bears are protecting the baby bears. The mama animals are protecting the babies. And so, you know, it's not impossible that the juveniles are staying back at wherever their home nest or camp is, and then the adults are going out and finding food. And a lot of them just aren't making it to adulthood. And especially with as much as we are spreading out and taking over the world, their ecosystems are getting smaller and smaller, and it's not. And a lot of people think that they bury their dead, but I don't know how much evidence or proof there is of that, or if it's just a theory based on the fact that you don't really find bodies. But I mean, it's also not impossible, especially if you believe that they're like a missing link, like a primate between thumbs. Right. It's also not out of the realm of possibility. And they could dig like a dog, you know, like they wouldn't have to use shovels or tools, and so it's not impossible. I know Lisa and Juliet, they are on the bandwagon of Sasquatch is like an interdimensional being that can move around. I lean towards the primate theory myself, but like I said, we don't know what we don't know, so it's completely possible that it could be something else. I do know that in one of my cryptozoology classes, information that I thought was really interesting was pointing out different mammals that we know can detect EMF, that can detect electronics, and so that could be a reason why you're not getting a lot of document of like photos or videos of them, because they can feel your camera, your video camera, your phone.
There's a lot of footage out there where there's big hairy hands walking up to a camera and smacking it out of the way before they go down their path.
Yeah, even my dogs. Like I have 3 golden retrievers, and they are dumb as bricks. But we have an electric fence, and they know not to go near, like around our like farm animals, and they know because one of my dogs got tangled up in the electric fence when we first put it up, and she got stuck in it, and I don't know how, she got her leg wrapped up in it. I had to go in and like unhook the fence and get her out of it, and she was getting, so now the minute the fence comes on, she runs the other way because she can hear it or feel it. And so there's a lot of reasons to explain away all of the things that people say, well, what about this? Why not this? There's all kinds of theories and plausible explanations for those things. It's also possible that they just don't exist. But we have, especially when it comes to things like a Sasquatch or like a dragon, or, you know, there's unicorns even. Like we have so many documents throughout history, back to cave paintings and medieval texts, and that show these things, that show something that look like them. So what are the odds that for thousands of years people have been talking about these things, but they never existed?
Yeah, and going out of their way to carve things in stone, like that's
right.
That's not just fun when you have crops to grow or animals to hunt or
fire to build to stay alive. Like
exactly, yeah. That's a loud, exhausting task to take on if you don't have to do that.
Yeah, if you want, and also them doing it means that they thought it was important enough that they wanted to preserve this story. They wanted people to know about it.
Document it.
Yeah. So to me, it's much more likely that something existed at some point in time. Now, do any of them still exist? Maybe, maybe not. If they do, I would say they're critically endangered and likely will not eventually will die out but there's a book called the North American Field Research Guidebook to Bigfoot. That might not be the exact name. It's all those words. That might not be the order of them. And my favorite quote about cryptozoology is in there, and it says, it's a better world if Bigfoot exists, because it says something about our natural spaces, that we have not completely destroyed our planet, and there are still places in the world that could support this life without human interaction. And I think that that's true with all of cryptid stories, and I think that that's a beautiful way to look at it, that it is a better world. It means that we haven't totally screwed it up. If these things can still live out there, even in small numbers, have thriving environments where they can live. And so I like to think that there's things out there, and humans are small, and the planet is massive and has been here long before us. So it's very
They'll be here long after us too.
Right. It's very arrogant of us to think that we know everything about everything about the planet. And so
we don't even know a lot of the oceans.
No,
at the bottom of the oceans at all.
So
So
scary oceans.
that's the most terrifying thing ever to me, are the oceans, like what's down there. And I love a sea monster. That's my favorite. I love sea monsters. Yeah, the oceans are terrifying, but yeah, there's so much that we don't know. We find new species every day in somewhere in the world. There's new species, and maybe it's a bug, or maybe it's a giant fish, or maybe it's a mammal, but we find them every day. So why is it that those things have been able to exist unknown to us, but a Sasquatch can't, or a sea monster can't?
yeah, 95% of the jungle has never had human feet in it.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That's the way it needs to be anyways. I know. Like, we don't need to destroy someplace else.
We've done
because
it.
we want the resources. That's something that's finite, right?
Right. And it's funny too, because I'm a huge fan of medieval artwork and all of the things that like we discussed earlier, that through word of mouth and other means of communication, things sometimes get distorted too. So a lot, like, we might be discovering species now that are what we have had in our minds as a cryptid for a long time, but we thought it had a horn or
Right.
a weird tail or something. Because you look at these old drawings and you're like, oh, they thought whales were crazy looking.
Yeah.
Or giraffes, or
yeah. Well, giraffes are crazy looking. Giraffes have no business existing. Right? They are. I will never get over, like, it will constantly plague me. It's my Roman Empire to think about the fact that giraffes exist, but unicorns do not exist. Like, it is a horse with a horn, like a rhino, or a narwhal also has no business existing. Like, animals with horns exist.
Right.
Yeah. Giraffe is okay. Then we just walk around accepting that giraffes are normal.
Exactly. Yeah. I still hold out hope for unicorns. I choose to believe that they're somewhere nice and peaceful, hiding from us.
I had never really questioned it. Like, growing up, I was always, do you remember that movie from, I want to say I don't think it was the Don Bluth company. I think it was the Dark Crystal people that did the Dark Crystal, did The Last Unicorn. Did you ever watch that when you were a kid? That movie was one of my favorites, and also one of the most traumatizing movies of my childhood. It's so scary.
Oh, it's so terrifying.
Yeah, so scary. But that movie, like, I loved that movie, and like, I loved unicorns and stuff, but I never questioned if they were real or not. I was just always like, oh, it's not a real, like, even as I got older, even once I started in cryptozoology, it never crossed my mind to question a unicorn. I just always looked at it like, oh, it's a made up creature, until I came across this one girl who was on TikTok, and she has a master's in folklore, and she was talking about why she thinks unicorns are real, and a lot of it was about medieval tapestries and medieval artwork, and I started going down a rabbit hole about artwork, medieval artwork about unicorns, and I was like, I think this might have been a thing. I think these actually existed. And I guess I'm sold. I think that they did. I think they're definitely extinct, but I think that they definitely existed, and they have way more right to exist than giraffes. So,
right. Has anyone seen Death of a Unicorn from
yes, just recently? And that movie, I love Paul Rudd. I love him so much. I thought that movie was going to be like a dark comedy. The first like 2/3 of the movie are kind of boring. I was even like looking at my husband. I was like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but I kind of want to tap out. But then the last third of the movie is so good, and it ramps up.
I don't want to watch anything where unicorns are harmed, but that movie, I was like, I got a feeling about this, and
that's a wild movie.
So good.
Yeah, I love a unicorn. I love and like dragons even, you know, I'm on the fence about dragons. Like sometimes I lean into the camp of it. I think maybe they found dinosaur bones and just didn't know what they were. But then why would they just stick wings on them? Why would they assume this very large animal could fly? Because logic would be if you see a giant animal, it's too heavy. They had mammoths and elephants. Like they knew what big animals looked like. Why would they assume they could fly? And so even in the Bible, there's stories of dragons and
unicorns.
Unicorns. So like, and there's same thing. There's cave paintings and petroglyphs of dragons. So like and breathing fire, which we know that there are reptiles that have that capability to like produce smoke or produce or have in the past. So I don't think that it's out of the question that dragons existed. I think that.
Well, you're in good company. I did my social studies fair project on the existence of dragons across cultures because it's an archetype. They said that even if they didn't exist as real animals, that there's something that exists in humanity that every culture will create a dragon. I'm like, that seems like a bigger stretch to me than it just existing and everyone.
Same thing with the Sasquatch. Like why?
Yeah, why does everyone imagine a wild hairy man in the forest?
Right. And thousands of years ago, people weren't just getting on airplanes and going across the country and telling people about these things, or getting on the internet and telling people about these things. How would these stories have traveled?
Right.
Continents. Even if we not communicate.
Language barriers.
It makes no sense.
More far-fetched, in my opinion, than to acknowledge.
The ultimate razor of it would be that something existed, because how would it have been possible that so many different types of people, different tribes of people, different languages, different races, how is it possible that all of these people would have known about these things?
Exactly. Right. I mean, all the way back to, I think it was China, but their emperor back then, the very first emperor flew in on a dragon.
Yeah.
So I mean, it definitely lends to like a supernatural type of vibe to it.
I love the term supernatural. I think it's also taken on like a connotation of ghosts and ghouls, but all supernatural it just means it's outside of the realm of what we consider natural, and we don't know why. Just like paranormal, it's literally just
outside of the norm,
not what we consider normal, and we don't know why. Like it's and I think cryptozoology has kind of gotten that stigma too. People think that it's monster hunting, but it's just documenting animals we haven't been able to document yet, and we find new animals every day, and so it's really just an extension of biology and zoology.
Exactly. And then the perfect example of this is Mariah Mayer. I love her so much. She actively is searching for Sasquatch, and she has also discovered new species of primates that are this big. like she's going on both ends of the spectrum, but either end is just as miraculous, that there are things that we don't understand and that may one day be canonized. But it's mind-boggling that there's so much that we don't know, and that so many people are just like, no, because I don't want to entertain that. Why?
One of my favorite, when I do like engagements, like when I do like presentations, one of my favorite things to do is end on an animal that was a cryptid and lost its cryptid status because we documented it. And so to remind people, that it's more than just monster hunting. Like I did a kids thing at a library last month, and so like I talked about this book. It's called Helga the Hellbender, and I talked about Kentucky Hellbenders and Ohio Hellbenders at the end, about the cryptid, when they were cryptids and how they were first talked about and documented in history books, and then we ended up actually being able to document them, and now they're critically endangered, and there's all kinds of rehabilitation. The Columbus Zoo has a program there, a hellbender repopulation program, and they're putting them out into the wild. And so I love to do that. I love to like end on an animal that used to be a cryptid that we thought wasn't real, and then went on to find out that it actually was there all along.
So what is that actual creature? Because the cartoon
salamander. It's the largest salamander. It can grow up to like 30 inches long, and they can live for like 30 years, and they live like 99% of their life underwater.
Wow, that's so cool.
I mean, I am not a reptile person. They freak me out a little bit. So It's not, this one's cute, but like in real life, they're not very cute. But they are important. They're an indicator species. So that means if you see them, that means the water there is clean. Wow. Which is why they're endangered, because
not as much water.
We're killing off the ecosystem. So they are endangered because they don't have as many clean water. It's also why they tell you not to stack rocks. If you go to a creek or something, you shouldn't stack rocks, because they live underneath rocks. They camouflage, and they burrow down underneath and will live under rocks. And so when you take the rocks out, they lose their house, or they get knocked over on them and they squash them. So like that's one of the reasons.
No, don't do that.
Yeah. So they tell you shouldn't stack rocks. And if you do stack them, like stack them if you want to take a picture or play a game and then put them back. Yeah. But yeah, I love that. I love to remind people that cryptozoology is not about monsters. It's just about the unknown. And that's my favorite way, is to end on an animal that was a cryptid and is now just an animal that we know exists.
So I'm wondering throughout our conversation, what's the moment that made this all real for you? Like that made you want to dive in and do this?
Well, so I have a dog hair in my eye. When I did my undergraduate, it was nothing related. My undergraduate is in health information management. I'm a medical coder, and that's my day job. And that was what I got an associate's and then a bachelor's, both in those fields. I pre-pandemic played roller derby, and that was like 4 days a week and for years. And then the pandemic hit, and right as the pandemic hit, I tore my whole left shoulder out. And it was I would just be sitting there minding my business, and it would just fall out of the socket. And everything in my shoulder was torn. And so I had to have surgery right as the pandemic shut everything down. And they said, if you tear this again, there's not enough. Like, we had to cut too much of it out and to reattach. So there's not enough left. If you do it again, you have to have a prosthetic shoulder put in. So I had to stop playing roller derby. And, we went through the pandemic, and then everything opened back up. And then right around the time everything opened back up, we sold our house. We bought this farm that's very rural. It's way out of town, and it's not close to anything. And so I was like, well, I need a hobby. Like, I'm not somebody that can just have a lot of downtime. And roller derby's not on the table anymore. It's not easy to just go into town multiple days a week now. I need something I can do remotely. Maybe I'll go back to school, because my husband's retired from the Marine Corps, so the VA paid for me to go to school, and I did my associates and my bachelor's in 2 calendar years. So I had 3 years left that they would pay for school. And so I was like, well, I at some point learned that you can go to get a master's degree for anything. It doesn't have to be related to your undergrad, which I just assumed it did. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I'll just go back and learn about something just because I can, that I'm interested in. And so I started looking, and I was like, maybe I'll do a folklore program or a cryptozoology program. They're really hard to find. And I found the cryptozoology program, but then I was like, maybe I'll also go and do like Appalachian studies. Because growing up here, I always, when you're growing up as a kid, you hear the stories your whole life. Like if you hear something in the woods, know you did it. If you don't whistle at night, don't go in the woods alone past a certain time, don't talk to the crows. Like there's all kinds of stories that you learn. And then as I got older and moved around, I lived in upstate New York, lived in the Pacific Northwest. Like I've lived all over and still found it really interesting when I moved back here that no matter where you live in Appalachia, whether it's like the northern, like Pennsylvania part, or like the southern area, like where I am, or like towards the Blue Ridge or more inland, we all know the same stories. And it can be kind of isolating living in Appalachia, especially in the olden days. So I always thought it was super interesting that everybody knew the same stories but didn't communicate them to each other. Like, how did they all know the same stories? Some kind of like what we were talking about, like with the continental, documentation of dragons and Sasquatch. Like, how do we all hear these same stories? And also, there was something kind of romantic about the idea that maybe your closest neighbor is 5 miles away, but in the sense that we all grew up learning this same way of life and these same beliefs and the same folklore system, we're all kind of together in that way. And I wanted to know why. Why do we think these things are out there? Are they really out there? Were they really out there? Did somebody bring this story from the old country? And did somebody just want to keep their kids safe in a harsh environment? And so I decided to go both directions. I wanted to learn the cryptozoology side to learn about the stories that we're telling now. And I wanted to do the historical anthropology part to figure out why we're telling them and what it says about our cultures and how these stories affected us previously, like generations before, and how are they still affecting us now, and are they affecting our communities, and what kind of part do these stories still play for us? So the more I got into it, the more like it's like an onion. Like I'd start to peel back a layer and I'd be like, oh, that's really interesting. Let's learn about this. And then just kind of went down the rabbit hole. And then I started having this existential crisis at some point. Like, what am I going to do with all this information when I get out of school? And so I got on LinkedIn, which I never use, but I got on LinkedIn and just typed in cryptozoology and like followed the hashtags. And I came across Dr. Jeff Meldrum and then like followed the rabbit hole of the people that he's connected to. And I came across this little like simple, like not very active LinkedIn page, but for the Crypto Women's Society. And it was Lisa on there. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And so I went on there and there wasn't like a lot on LinkedIn. I was like, well, maybe they're on Facebook because I'm from the generation that, we use Facebook a lot. And I got on there and there was a Facebook, but it wasn't super active. I was like, oh, maybe this isn't as big a thing as I thought. But then I got on Instagram and that's where they were doing all the things. And I was like, this light bulb just went off and I was like, oh, there's other people who want to talk about this. There's other people who think about these things. And so like I went on the website and I was like, this is something I got to be a part of. And I jumped in like head first. You are our first stalker. Yeah. I mean, I jumped and I have the habit of like, once I commit to something, I'm like, I'm in it. I'm all in it. What can I do? Like, and so that's kind of what happened. I signed up and became a member. And I think like the next day, Lisa emailed me and was like, hey, let's get on a Zoom. And so we sat on a Zoom, the three of us, for like 3 hours that first night. And now they can't get rid of me. And I don't even know what time it is when I'll send her like a book and I'm like, I had this idea and I had this idea and I had this idea. And like 6 hours later, she's like, I was sleeping. It was 3 a.m. So like,
Eventually.
I'm like, she'll see it when she wakes up.
Absolutely. Are you guys accepting new members?
Always.
Yes.
We're always looking for new members.
Yay.
We want the biggest web of weirdos ever.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
I found my people.
I would love it, especially in the States, because the States is just so big, massive compared to other countries. Like, our states are the size of other nations' countries. And so I would love to get enough people in the states that we can form like regional factions, like where we can have like in-person meetings. And right now we're just so spread out that like the closest, like I said, I think the next closest to me, I think we've got a couple in Tennessee, and then we've got a couple in Florida, we've got a couple in Pennsylvania, and then I'm not sure how like in the middle sections, but I know we've got several in the like a western part. But yeah, my hope is to see like an uptick in the states so that we can really have like regional groups.
Yes.
Yeah, bring all your friends.
So exciting.
So our socials got hacked by somebody in China recently, and they got shut down completely. So they're not on Facebook anymore. I'm not sure if they're going to get back on Facebook but for now they're not. But they are on Instagram and YouTube, and so they'll do like live, kind of like this. They'll do live interviews with different people in the business and in one area or another, and that's where most of our content is. And they're also on TikTok, but we don't do a lot of TikTok. We need a TikTok person, but we're past the TikTok age. We need people that are really good at TikTok. So we're mostly in Instagram and YouTube.
Wonderful. Well, we are coming up right on an hour. That has gone by so fast.
I know, it did.
Talk about this forever.
Seriously, I could keep you on all night. You're absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to go ahead? Go ahead.
I was just going to ask if there's anything that you wanted to share upcoming that you wanted to promote, and where people can find you too.
I have an article coming out in the next edition of Fate magazine that should be coming out literally anytime. It's actually a little bit behind schedule, so literally like any day. They can find me on Facebook, Lacey Williams, Certified Cryptozoology Investigator. On Instagram, it's laceywilliams.cci. My link tree will kind of take you anywhere, and it's linktr.ee/laceywilliams.cci, and we'll show you all my upcoming engagements if you're in the Appalachia tri-state area. In June, I'm doing a community event in Ashland, Kentucky called Bluegrass Beasts, and we're talking about different Kentucky cryptids. The following weekend, I'm doing one in Gallipolis, Ohio, which is right across the river from Point Pleasant. So we're doing that one we're calling River Shadows in the shadows of the river or something. And we're talking about Ohio cryptids. And then I'll be speaking at the Carter County Bigfoot Festival in September, and the Falling Leaves Riders Festival in Greenup County, Kentucky in October. So lots of different places that you can pop in. And then you can find the Cryptid Women's Society on Instagram. It's Cryptid Women's Society, like plural Women's Society, INT, International. That was the new handle after the hacking. And at Cryptid Women's Society on YouTube or cryptidwomensociety.com online.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. And I will be following all of those as soon as possible.
I know.
Well, I hope we hear from you guys soon. I hope that you bring everybody and come hang out with us. We have a Discord.
I've been a part of it for a while.
We have a Discord, so we kind of chat all day, every day about various things. And that's like, if you have a new conspiracy theory that you heard, you can jump in there and be like, did anybody hear this? And what do you think about this? And tell me your thoughts on, like, the other day, Lisa was like, tell me all the things about these missing scientists I need to know. And like, so we talk about everything. Everyone's opinions are valid, and everyone's suggestions are taken seriously. So you don't ever have to worry about, feeling embarrassed to feel away or think away. If you think it, somebody else probably does too.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
We're just a girl gang who need jackets. We need like matching.
I know. That would be awesome.
Well, thank you to everyone in the chat as well. Thank you, Holly, Lisa, David, and Katie, and anyone else I might have missed. But I think I got you guys. This was an awesome episode, and thank you so much for joining us. We hope to catch you again.
Lacey.
Well, thank you so much. You guys have a great night.
You too.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.